Welcome to table for 92, element number 77, iridium. It's number 77 because it has exactly 77 protons within its nucleus. So, for iridium, I'm cooking up some fried dinosaur. That's right, dinosaur. All right, yeah, it's fried chicken. And it's the best fried chicken ever made. Pickle brine fried chicken. Incredible. But yes, chickens are dinosaurs. So it was controversial for a very long time in paleontology, and it actually goes back to like the beginning of dinosaur paleontology as a science, but I can now say 100% certainty without hesitation, birds are dinosaurs and dinosaurs did not go extinct. They merely adapted to the changed environment after the firestorm that was the meteorite impact that caused the mass extinctions at the end of the Cretaceous 66 million years ago. It's funny, if you watch back to the first Jurassic Park movie, they are still talking about it as like being controversial. The kid's like, oh, and Dr. Bakker says that the dinosaurs turned into birds. Now, what does this have to do with iridium? Well, a lot. I'll get into that a little bit later, but basically iridium is the reason we know the mass extinctions at the end of the Cretaceous were from an asteroid or meteor or extraterrestrial object. So with chickens though, the USDA put a stop to using growth hormones in chickens in the 1950s. So it's funny, like when you see in advertising on like a chicken that you'll buy, they'll be like, and we use no growth hormones. It's like, yeah, you can't. That's illegal. But yeah, still though, from the 1950s to today, the size of chickens is just gone redonkulous, right? It was like average like 2-pound a chicken in the 50s. Now average is like 6 pounds. This is 6-pounder right now. That was through selective breeding. That was not, due to like any growth hormones or steroids or anything like that. It was just selective breeding, mostly making the breasts much, much larger on, today's chickens. And, that's where you get a lot of the flavor. That's where you get a lot of the fat. And, that's why, chicken breast is so, it's used in everything now, right? But yeah, it's the selective breeding that has caused these larger chickens, and they taste better now because there's a lot more fat on them too. And all that happens, this thing grows from egg to 6 pounds in 56 days. It's incredible. And that's all because of our understanding of evolution and genetics. So let us thank natural selection and selective breeding for turning terrifying Samuel Jackson killing dinosaurs to big balls of meat with tiny heads. I first heard about pickle brine fried chicken, or fried dinosaur, from the great Matty Matheson. Like, he had a video on the Munchies channel on YouTube. And, I feel like him and I would be buddies. I like Canadians. I like the way he butchers a chicken, too. It's like you cut it up into like 10 different pieces of like all the similar size, so they all fry at the same time. But it's weird, too, because I lived a lot of my life in the South, and I've never heard of pickle brine fried chicken. It took a Canadian to tell me about that, which is just interesting. So it wasn't all the dinosaurs that survived the asteroid impact or meteorite impact. It was the theropods, the 3-toed dinosaurs, Thero, your T-Rex, Velociraptor, Archaeopteryx, Ornithomimus, all the favorites. Ornithomimus, by the way, means bird mimic. Oh, and my favorite dinosaur too, also, it's the Microraptor. It's like a transitionary species between the theropods and modern birds. The similarities between these theropods and modern day chickens are very stark. I mean, their feet today are nearly identical. They were feathered, they had hollow bones, the toes were fully reversed. And the hollow bones is interesting too, because they had hollow bones before they evolved the ability to fly. They probably evolved the hollow bones to make them lighter and faster, like the Ornithomimus could run up to 60 miles an hour. And then the feathers, we think there's actually a cold snap in certain parts of the world during the Cretaceous, and the earliest feathers kind of coincide with that. So the feathers might have been more of like insulation, actually. And then later on, they evolved the ability to fly. But flying is independently evolved many times throughout evolution. Bats are mammals, right? They've evolved the ability to fly. So feathers and flying don't really have all that much to do with each other. Kind of a coincidence. We know they were feathered a lot of different ways, but the really cool way is paleontologists have found dinosaur feathers preserved in amber on many occasions. Like, they perched next to a tree with sap on it, had a feather get plucked out, and then it got preserved in amber. It's just very Jurassic Park reminiscent. Another big similarity, the forcula, or we call it the wishbone. It's the fused clavicles, like our collarbone. They all had wishbones. Like the T-Rex had a giant wishbone. So just imagine having that for Thanksgiving. Confusingly, like the theropods, the bird-like ones were lizard-hipped, and they evolved into birds, and the structure of their hips changed then. It's just a case of convergent evolution. It happens all the time, but yeah, theropod hips do lie. Next time you see like a pigeon or a chicken somewhere, take a look at their feet, and you'll be like, oh yeah, that's totally a dinosaur. There's not a lot of species, too, that walk on 2 legs in evolutionary history. It's very interesting, like it's a coincidence. It's like there's theropods, there's humans, some other apes, kangaroos, there's some lizards, but yeah, it's like another interesting bit of convergent evolution. Like, animals on 2 legs is rare in the hundreds of millions of years of evolution on Earth. So yeah, pickle brine from your favorite pickle jar. I found the best way to do this is to let it marinate for like at least 3 days. And Add your pickle brine. The first time I ever tried this after seeing the Maddie Matheson video, got the chicken parts, put them in pickle brine, put it in my fridge, completely forgot about it for like 4 days. But then when I fried it up, I mean, it was so much better. Like really a couple days. You end up with chicken that looks like that. So you can see like what the brine has kind of done to it. It's actually like ceviche, where, you know, the acidity in that pickle juice, it changes the connective tissues in the chicken. And so it makes it much softer, much juicier when it's time to eat. All right, so you take your pickle brine dinosaur and, you know, put it in some buttermilk for a few hours at least, you know, then you put the batter and fry it. This I got from Hot Dog Johnny's in Buttsville, New Jersey. That's right, Buttsville. They sell 4 things: hot dogs, french fries, birch beer, and buttermilk, and that's it. First off, iridium is a metal, the second densest metal actually, after osmium. You know, it's table buddy. And while the discoverer of both osmium and iridium, Smithson Tennant, didn't think much of osmium, he actually named it that osmium because it smelled bad. Osme is ancient Greek for smell. But he gave iridium its name based on the beautiful iridescent colors it gave off, naming it after the Greek goddess Iris, the goddess of the rainbow. Iridium, Iris, rainbow. So I talked about the simultaneous discovery of osmium and iridium in the previous episode, but if you didn't see that, here's the brief overview. Smithson Tennant, the son of wealthy landowners in Yorkshire, England, he received, you know, a great education that only, you know, landowners that at the time could have gotten. He went to Cambridge. He was interested, you know, in science, so he became part of like the best scientific societies at the time. He was working with platinum that he was dissolving in aqua regia. It's a combination of nitric and hydrochloric acids, but there was a like black leftover residue that appeared as graphite. And Smithson knew like something was off though. He was actually the guy who first figured out graphite and diamond were made of the same thing. So he was like an expert in graphite. And yeah, it's made of carbon, both graphite and diamond. So he was then able to separate the black residue into 2 substances, the smelly osmium and the beautiful iridium, you know, kind of a cool combo, Beauty and the Beast-ish. The Royal Society of Chemistry describes iridium as having the sexiest name of any element. I mean, iridium is a pretty sexy name, but it ain't got nothing on thorium. That's the sexiest element name. I'll fight over it. So iridium is extremely useful, more useful than osmium, which is like not used in basically anything other than high-end pens, like $10,000 pens. That's all osmium's good for. Yeah, because of how dense osmium and iridium are, they make amazing quality alloys that basically make it so that like fancy pens never change in their feel. Since they don't corrode, you can expect like the same writing style for years. Like I've never heard of such a thing, but like, yeah, I mean, calligraphy is an important part of people's cultures, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I remember how much like other kids would make fun of me when I went to school in Germany because, quote, my handwriting looked like a 6-year-old's. I mean, it wasn't my fault. I didn't have those elitist iridium pens. Maybe it would have been better. But yeah, iridium is one of the most interesting metals out there and is maybe one of the rarest metals in Earth's crust. It's either osmium or iridium. You'll hear both as being the rarest metal, but it seems like the consensus is that osmium actually is the rarest, with iridium being a close second. But the thing is, iridium is used in stuff where osmium really isn't. Like the cost of an ounce of pure iridium is hovering around $5,000. It used to be more like $1,500 an ounce, but in late 2020 to 2021, the price absolutely skyrocketed because, you know, of the supply chain issues with the pandemic and everything. But yeah, iridium's expensive, osmium's not. Osmium trades at like $400 an ounce. And plus iridium is prettier and doesn't smell like butt, so that's good. Iridium and osmium are both part of the platinum group metals, but aren't used much, you know, as platinum, rhodium, and palladium and catalytic converters. So you don't need to worry about someone stealing the precious iridium off your ride. Iridium is mainly used in industry because it's the most corrosion resistant metal in the universe. Like gold and platinum are worth so much money because of how beautiful they are and how, you know, resistant to corrosion they are. That's why they're used in nice jewelry and whatnot. Yeah, there's not a lot of people out there wearing pure copper. It makes your skin turn green because of the oxidation. Palladium, platinum, gold, that doesn't do that. Iridium is resistant to the exact kind of oxidation that affects most metals. And because of that, an alloy of platinum and iridium is used as the standard bearer for the kilogram. Yeah. There's a secret vault in France that houses a block of what the exact amount of what a kilogram is supposed to be. So like all other measurements can be compared to it. Yeah, platinum and iridium. That's kilo. For the seasoned flour, 6 cups of all-purpose flour mixed with 2 tablespoons each salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, some of this South African smoke seasoning I really like, herbes de Provence, and a tablespoon of each paprika and cayenne, so you get a little bit of spice in there. So iridium killed the dinosaurs in cold blood. I mean, not quite, but it's really the main reason we're pretty sure the dinosaur extinction happened, and explains a lot of other natural phenomena around the world. So yeah, this is my wheelhouse, by the way. I worked as a tour guide at a dinosaur museum for like 10 years, and we had like 500,000 people come through that museum every year, so I've told this story many, many times. Dinosaurs ruled the world for the entirety of the Mesozoic era, right? That includes the Triassic period, the Jurassic, and to the end of the Cretaceous when the dinosaurs vanished from the fossil record, but not really. And yeah, there's a bunch of smaller divisions within each time period too. There are so many large extinctions along the way. Like the dinosaurs extinction is not just the one time it ever happened. And you know, that's how we divide up geologic time like we do. When you see in the fossil record a mass die-off, that's a good place to make a division for the next time period, right? We don't exactly know what happened at each one of the mass extinctions, but I mean, it really comes down to climate change at the end of the day. Like, but it's what caused that climate change is the hard thing to figure out. So ever since, you know, dinosaur fossils were first discovered and understood for what they were, the question always is like, why aren't they here anymore? What killed them? Well, you know, there's a lot of ideas from the very beginning of dinosaur paleontology, and that really only started in like the early to mid 1800s. What happened to them though? Like, what happened at the end of the Cretaceous, right? Is it increased volcanism? Mammals increased maybe and started eating all the dinosaur eggs. Dinosaurs were killed by aliens to make way for mammals and eventually humans. Like, yeah, I had like adults, people that I thought would never ask that question, but hey, they asked it a lot. They have about aliens killing the dinosaurs. So thanks History Channel for that. Not as bad as the people that claim that dinosaur fossils are fake or like we're put there by the devil to test our faith or whatever. Those people are the worst. They never tip. Yeah. By the way, the geological layer where the dinosaurs go extinct, it used to be called the KT boundary, which stands for Cretaceous Tertiary. Cretaceous does not begin with a K, but if you want to be a cool kid in paleontology, you know, you got to be up on the new vernacular. We call it the KPG boundary now. PG for Paleogene, which is just a restructuring of the age of the Tertiary. So KPG boundary now. Okay, dinosaur paleontologists, you know, have long known this is the line where there are no more dinosaurs, the KPG boundary, right? Below it, dinosaurs. On top of it, none, but not really. You know, some survived, we now know that. But yeah, something happened really quick. The researchers that brought the idea of a meteorite impact were Luis Alvarez and his son Walter, as well as Frank Azzaro and Helen Michel. Walter Alvarez, he's amazing though. He had already won a Nobel Prize in physics like 12 years before the meteorite extinction hypothesis came out in 1980, but his son was a geologist, so it's kind of like the perfect pairing. And he first showed Luis the KPG boundary at a site in Italy and brought samples back to UC Berkeley, which found the presence of shocked quartz and tiny diamonds that point to an impact of extremely high pressure. But the real kicker was the presence of high amounts of iridium. Yeah, by the way, the KPG boundary is only like 3 millimeters thick, and it is found all over the world. But, you know, it's still really hard to identify and has been dated closer to 66 million years ago, not 65, so that's when they really died off. But yeah, it was the presence of iridium that changed everything. On Earth, iridium is very rare, perhaps the rarest metal there is. But in meteorites and asteroids, the levels of iridium are like 160 times more concentrated than on Earth. So that points to something from outer space killing the dinosaurs. But then the next question, where's the impact crater? The Alvarez team had originally published the impact extinction hypothesis in 1980 and was immediately met with criticism from like the entire scientific community because, you know, that's what happens when you say something like, I think I know what killed the dinosaurs. You know, big claims you need, you know, big evidence for. And unfortunately, Luis Alvarez died before the impact crater was actually discovered, or it was actually released. Turns out it was a couple of geophysicists that worked over at Shell Oil had discovered the impact crater back in the 70s, before the Alvarezes had even published their findings. But the info didn't get to the, you know, physicist-geologist father-son duo before Alvarez's death in 1988. Oh, by the way, too, Luis Alvarez was portrayed by the actor Alex Wolff in Oppenheimer, which, I mean, might be, you know, my favorite science movie of like all time. It was a small part, but an important one. It was like where Oppenheimer reveals to their team that they're making a bomb at Los Alamos, and Alvarez warns Oppenheimer later. He's like, the army's just gonna take the bomb and leave, you know, all of us behind, which is exactly what happens, you know. The whole, they need us until they don't thing, very true. The crater that was found is in the Yucatan Peninsula, and it's changed significantly over the last 66 million years or so since the asteroid or meteorite hit. I know, looking at a map of the Yucatan or like the Gulf of Mexico, it looks like one giant crater. That's just a coincidence. The impact would have been where the tip of the Yucatan Peninsula is today, a place called Chicxulub. So while there are still dissenters, you know, the Chicxulub impact crater is the consensus for the KPG extinction now. You know, people often bring up the Deccan Traps, a place in what's now India, where there are huge volcanic events happening, you know, simultaneously to the dying off of the dinosaurs. There's ideas of mass disease contributing to the dinosaurs dying off, but you know, the Chicxulub impact site and the KPG boundary show the dinosaur extinction happened quickly, like on the scale of thousands of years, not millions. You know, it was a quick event. But you know, there's still more questions. Like, it looks like the health of some dinosaur species were getting weaker, showing less variability in the millions of years before the extinction, perhaps weakening whole populations of dinosaurs right before the impact event. At the end of the day, what we have is a worldwide event happening quickly, and it looks like it came from outer space, a 4-mile wide rock that likely came from an asteroid belt in our own solar system. So yeah, it's crazy. Like, there's now some research into exactly where the asteroid got knocked off course, but I don't think we have a consensus on that quite yet, but always learning new stuff. So yeah, the real thing that killed the dinosaurs though was climate change, right? It's caused by the meteorite or asteroid impact, but it's the lingering effects that really caused the mass die-off, like the atmosphere changing, the oceans being poisoned with sulfur, lots of bad things happening at the same time. But you know, anyway, like, I'm glad the dinosaurs died off. We wouldn't have, you know, done well against them. I mean, look at Jurassic Park. Mammal pride. Go mammals. So thank you, Iridium, for helping to kill off the dinosaurs. Well, at least the scarier ones. The only ones to survive the impact event went on to evolve into weird little creatures with lots of meat and tiny heads. Oh yeah. Dinosaur, delicious. I love being at the top of the food chain. One last thing though, I was in California last year, went to Roscoe's House Chicken. They make the best Louisiana style hot sauce I've ever had. Not that this needs it, but this is really the best Louisiana hot sauce. But I cannot find this stuff anywhere. If you happen to be in California, go to Roscoe's, get some of that Louisiana stuff. Thanks, and see you next time.